podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Old Head podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Raji.
Yeah. So we're gonna record and have a conversation. In the proceeding of this week, Harry Belafonte passed away. I don't have his age at the moment. And I thought we should at least speak on it for a moment. The thing that I thought about was sort of the way I came to understand, whatever his misgivings, where Harry Belafonte fit within like civil rights stuff. Because it was like, as a kid, it was like, yeah, Black history in this person, and then it was like Harry Belafonte. And I was like, I mean, the Deo song is fun. It's cool, but I don't know, is this song alone, and this is very like a child's eye, not knowing what you don't know. Like, man, why are they? I mean, I guess I was like, because it would be like Martin Luther King, Harry Belafonte. And I'm like, oh, like great entertainers, cool, But then the aspect that raising funds for civil rights, activities, speaking out, in public, using when his own notoriety as a space to speak out about the civil rights movement and whatever have you. And then something that I think is always prescient from that time is that, like, we today, and even when we were kids, I think we still I guess we had the cognitive space to know it, but the more I think about it today, and even what I know now, like how actually dangerous it was for everyone involved to be out like flying around or driving around or being around and saying stuff, like, it escapes us sometimes. And because of the way I think we are encouraged to talk about all this, is we blot out that, for the majority of the timing that we would call the civil rights movement era, right? If you go through to if you go to where you might say the civil rights movement ended in the violent death of Martin Luther King while he was exercising his civil rights to free speech, right. You could die, and anyone involved could be, harmed physically, or otherwise, and you may be nothing may happen to anyone related to that. There may be no legal thing. There may be no recourse for your family. Nothing. So, So I thought we should just tap in on Harry and then say a word or two. And so what are some of your thoughts?
Absolutely. So to your point, like, and I still am kind of somewhat quizzical. I mean, I could go find out. Google is my friend. But like, you made all this money off of a day. Daylight coming, we want to go home. Like, did you make all your money off of that? Like, that's an incredibly, obviously it's one of those songs that stays, like, they hit the cultural zeitgeist, and in some ways hasn't left. Like, you could hear it in a movie today, right? And leveraging that to, like, that would be like Chingy leveraging like that song he did, like Right Here, and like staying like a civil rights icon. Right.
Chingy's funding social justice work all over America, off of royalties from right there.
Yeah, he's a global ambassador off of a song where people started doing the chicken wing or whatever that song they
Oh
called
yeah, yeah. I remember
it.
listening.
Yeah, yeah. We showing our age. But like, thinking about this idea of leveraging your talent. Well, one more thing about the song. Harry Belafonte was born and raised in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes there's part of this that can be like, oh, this dude that came straight from Jamaica did this song. Damn, damn. Like, I was born and raised in Harlem. Now, obviously, with West Indian family and family from the Caribbean. But I think, like we often talk about, that's a really interesting point of the interplay of the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
That someone born and raised in Harlem could make that kind of song. Where in later times we would look down on something like that, like an American artist did a song like that, we'd be talking bullshit. Like, oh man, he's Jamaican. But I think it was a testament to that. So anyway, so to think about going from okay, you did that, and now you're like a confidant for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and you're in some ways the bridge between the civil rights folks and some of the more activist folks. Like you're the person that gets them to sit down in a room when they don't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's a lot there. Well, we both looked at that piece. Maybe you can share a link to it or find a way to that link to him sitting down with the brothers in Bed-Stuy, brothers and sisters in Bed-Stuy to like talk to the brothers and sisters about what's going on and hearing frankly how he was talking in like 69 and 70 about like white supremacy and capitalism and how he was just giving it up, and one small piece, and I know you'll add on, is about, in the clip, none other than Roxy Roker is talking, is part of the kind of public television newscast. And for folks, that is the mother of Lenny Kravitz and Roxy Roker from the Jeffersons. You know what I mean? So it was a really interesting way to see how all these things connected. Obviously his support for Haiti, and then I'll jump all the way to, you do We Are the World. You're putting everything together to get the brothers and sisters to be thinking about Africa and famine. And I guess on your off time, you produce Beat Street.
Yeah.
like you actually put together for many of us, depending on your age, the seminal hip hop movie, right? Like, I mean, B Street and Breakers, and B Street Breaking and Wild Style, not in that order, obviously, and for many, but those are seminal movies of hip hop. So not only while you're doing We Are the World and fighting, apartheid, you're also producing the seminal hip hop movie that impacted most of the ways that millions of people grew up to understand what hip hop was. And so, I guess what I take from it is very similar to the Randall Robinson conversation we had. These brothers and sisters were operating as like living systems. Like they had a filament of activity that literally cuts across 50 and 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you think about movements, and people use the term movements and social justice, you have to have the sustained impact of moving across multiple generations. It can't be it's challenging to have flame outs of 5 and 10 years. We all know the energy of people being like, oh, this person was a real force for 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then they disappeared. There becomes a lack of continuity in the quote unquote the movement. So I think, and I'd also be remiss to talk about at the end of his career where he's looking at all the towards the end of his life, where he's looking at all the violence going on, really getting organizers together and saying, what can we do about it? But more than just coming up with policy solutions, then saying, how do we get community members together and people together to center voices so that whatever the solutions are can really be something supported by the people who are being affected. And that led to the Gathering for Justice, A lot of work that Mr. Belafonte came to Pittsburgh and spent some time here because of that work and because of organizing that kind of gave birth to a lot of other things in this region that started to happen as well as nationally. So, kind of a testament to a man with a life well lived. And again, really signifying for me this idea of how do you work across generations. And I posit that to people listening, because everyone listening to this has some similar interests, not the same. But if you're listening to us, besides our, our biting wit, and our banter, you probably care about Black people at some point. If you're listening to us, you care about Black people, you care about original people. So, how do we make sure that we are, furthering the movement beyond the short term and look at the embodiment of Mr. Belafonte's life, just in the same way we talked about Randall Robinson, and think about what does it mean to continue in the movement beyond the lights. So, kind of my take.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The other thing I'll add, just on the music tip, I realized that he had a whole bunch of other songs besides the Day-O song, and all of some of that is in a genre and lanes that were not lanes that I travel in very well. So I don't want somebody like, they listening to all the Belafonte at the Carnegie and, singing, and they like, you don't understand music, Justice. You need to open your lens. Like, I understand. I'm making jokes, having fun. Ha ha. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you how when you was at least when I was in like third or fourth grade, and they'd be like, and so they name all the luminaries, and then they'd be like, Harry Belafonte. And I'd be like, Harry Belafonte, he's up there. I wonder what he did. And it'd be like, Day-O song. That's what they told us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they set you up for failure, man. Which is like the Day-O song is dope, but it's a thing I think about with how we teach history of people, right? And then even with how we even get into how we talk about like, what you're supposed to do, kind of like what kind of life you're going to live and all these other things with young people. But what we end up modeling, and I could imagine a lot of other Black children, I can imagine some things that get modeled to them now, where you'll be like, oh, this person's important. And you'll be like, why? I don't know. Nobody really explained. They just told me that person was important. And then they showed me one or two things. And according to them, that person's important. But I don't really know why they're important. And therefore, then fast forward, you find somebody on Twitter talking about, you know what I'm saying, everybody, our ancestors was basically, our ancestors was soft. They go for anything. And why, just saying all kinds of wild stuff. They'd be like, oh, it's because you don't, I'd be salty. I take that stuff personally. I'm like, man, I wish you would tell.
I am not my ancestors. They can get these hands, though.
Right. I'd be like,
you're not. If you were giving them his hands, you wouldn't even be talking about it.
Right. You just be hands just be out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just ridiculous. And so, it's as we get to this place where, I mean, and many, folks of, that age, if you were born in the 20s or 30s, you know what I'm saying? We're moving to the place where we're not going to have you here anymore. Even if, definitely 40. I mean, 42, but you know what I'm saying? Like, folks is going to be passing away. Names are going to be coming up and, not wanting the parts of their story to be lost to history, the good and the bad, Harry, he didn't have the most, Earth Kid didn't have the best thing to say about Brother Harry. You know what I'm saying? I just, I don't want to be all up in folks' business. But just saying, for the record, because somebody gonna ask, just to be reading, I be knowing stuff. But the overall, like I said, life practice that we adhere to is, try to take the best part for yourself, and it's me understand the poor and the worst parts. You know what I mean? Like, what happened with that? Like, why? Get something from it so that you don't repeat unsavory, unhealthy history and or ideas. You know what I mean? So you can leave that stuff in the back. You don't got to bring that with you. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, yeah, you need to know that happened with that person. You know what I'm saying? But you don't got to take it with you. You know what I mean? And yeah, so, respects, to, his friends, family, folks that may be mourning his loss at a deeper level than us, that I could have access to as a as just a private citizen in America. You know what I'm saying? In the U.S. of A. You know,
go watch B Street.
Right. Go watch B Street. B Street. The beat of the street. Something down the street.
It is so much like the idea now. Like I'm so about to go back and watch it. And now the other guy that was in because you had Lee, and Lee was like, super cool. And Lee was like one of them guys when we was like 6 or 7 or 8. Everybody wanted to be like Lee because Lee was already out there with his Playboy hat on. He was already breakdancing.
Right.
He was hip. You know what I mean?
He's like, come on, man. You don't know nothing. The streetwise, spunky younger brother, man. What happened to that character? Do we still have that character in movies? You know what I'm saying?
No, and you're right, because that was a really big part of Black movies, the streetwise younger brother that was like, provided the banter and provided like the kind of other energy. It wasn't like the older brother. It was always like the younger brother.
The older brother had too much responsibility, man. He was out here trying to protect the family. So the younger brother,
and the older brother downtown hanging out with Irene Cara, was it? Somebody,
yeah.
Like he's downtown, you know what I mean, drinking, having the first wave of drinking coffee.
Right.
At least in American context, not the first wave in the
right.
context. It's always kind of remember that because we'd be like, he was down there drinking coffee at 84.
Right.
People been drinking coffee for thousands of years, dog. Like,
it's a really old tradition.
Yeah.
Time immemorial. It's one of them, like, you have the story of when the coffee started being. You may not have the exact data points because it's so long back, but
yeah. So I'm using in an American consumer context.
Yeah.
First wave. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely important. I think B Street and all those in Wild Style and even Breaking. I mean, Breaking a little less so, but I mean, I think it showed the West Coast form of lifestyle. Which, I think what's important. Those movies are important for us to frame what were these primary images of hip hop and how were people trying to capture the lifestyle and culture of New York in the 80s, man. So yeah, go check it out and go listen to Belafonte at the Carnegie as well as Dale.
Indeed. So I'm gonna frame this next contract actually in a New York window because that to me is the most fun way to talk about these NBA playoffs. So I
guess it is.
I've already sent in a petition, more of not really a petition, more of an exploratory memo to the National Committee of Nickdom to see if I can come out of fan retirement. You know what I'm saying? Because my feelings been hurt. I told people, it's a couple people. Shout out to another brother named Brother Justice, but you would know how can I say his name right now? Well, it'll come to me in a minute. I already sent
Supreme Unique is running around here. Man, y'all like relapsed and President Nick fans is having a moment, Jack.
Look, I the joy I've seen in others once is making me like I feel like I can love again. I feel like I can put myself back out there, man. Like maybe I didn't miss my chance. You know what I'm saying? To just
got his groove back.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, right. I'm like, yo, man, it looked like fun over there. I want to be over there with them. Like, yeah, Nick, let's go. I'm gonna put my hat on sideways and put my Timbs on in the house. You know what I'm saying?
Bong.
You know what I'm saying? Because
that bing bong shit is hilarious.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And so the Knicks won a playoff series, man. Who knew? And not only won, they kind of won in convincing fashion. Like yo, we was better than them. I was like, get out of here, Knicks. Look at y'all. You know what I mean? Man. So I didn't see that. I mean, I thought they could win the series. I thought they were, I didn't think Cleveland was better than, but I just had to. I gotta speak from the heart on this one because being a Knicks fan was hard sledding by the end of the '90s. Man, I had to get out. I just had to get out the game. Like, man, I can't take this no more. My feelings is hurt. Then they, 20 years of misery, more or less.
It was so much potential only to have it snatched. It was like always like, defeat snatched from the joys of victory, from the mouth of victory. Like, Yeah, it was uncanny actually. How much like it just wasn't good. Normally in these situations, you tend to think the team that has the best player on it probably is going to win, right? Especially with some of these super heroic things we've been seeing early in the playoffs, like playoff Jimmy Butler, Jamal Murray, playoff Jamal Murray, like that looks like bubble Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm.
So you tend to think whoever got the best player is going to do something to like change the nature of this. And I would argue the best player on the floor when the Cavs played the Knicks is Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, should be. He
He
definitely.
should be.
Yeah.
But the best player was Jalen Brunson.
Yep.
Like Jalen Brunson is the best player on the floor. And the Knicks as a team have the personality and they have the DNA of Thibs. And, they have the DNA of a team that can get to the second or third round with some togetherness because they play together, they're scrappy, they're thoughtful. You have a real point guard, which, again, a lot of times in the league now, because a lot of folks are so multi-talented, you don't have like true point guards,
Yeah.
right? You got people that can dribble, right? Like LeBron James can dribble, right? Kevin Durant can bring the ball up the floor. They are not point guards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So besides your CPs, your Kyries, your Devin, your not Devin Booker, pardon me, CPs, Kyries, like you can list them, but there's not a lot of classic point guards.
Yeah, they don't really
They're
look
just
like
guys
that
that
no
can
more.
shoot. They're short guys that can shoot. It is short for what we're talking about
Right,
because
sure for NBA
everybody
people,
is.
which are giant
Yeah,
people.
for sure. Right. To
Most of
get some
y'all, they're
context.
bigger than you. So just in case you out
Right.
here,
To
like,
get
yeah,
some
I can see that.
context there. But so yeah, so I just think it's a great team. And I think it brings something back to a town that's been listen, between the Jets getting the old man and y'all winning the series, New York is back,
You know what
Jam.
I'm saying? We out here. Let's go Knicks. Although I plan to, well, I got a lot
Pull
of
your hat out,
Schadenfreude
man.
for the Jets situation, but in terms of the Knicks, I'm like, I don't got no
Oh
t-shirts no
yeah, I know
more.
you're in the
I don't
Knicks
got, I
fan.
even got like an old Scully nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, damn man, like I feel like I want to get back in here, man, and have a rooting interest. You know what I'm saying? So
Hey man, they're a team that to some degree will be good. Now Tibbs has
yeah, he's got a
to
history
me he
of
has a ceiling.
beating the hell out of his own players, and then then they tap out. But just
Yeah.
keep it in the buck. You know what I'm saying? But Tibbs' ceiling is conference finals. You know what I mean? Which they realistically should. They shouldn't lose to Miami. Miami got the okey doke on the Bucks when Giannis missed them games, and then it was like, oh man, y'all. But then also Budenholzer, he kind of did some old regular some pre-winning the title Budenholzer stuff where you seem to refuse to change and adapt to the situation.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I think he might be out of there, man. Because it's
Yeah.
like they should win. They should. I mean, if what's his name was fully healthy, not Giannis before, but they still
Middleton.
should. Middleton,
Yeah.
yeah, they should have won the East last year.
I think
And
so, but here's what I'm going to say about that. I think they're really good, but I don't think they're dynamic.
I'll take that.
I think that they're good. Like they have, generally speaking, frankly, unless they're playing anybody, they have the best, strongest guy on the floor, right?
Yeah,
Like the guy takes 2 steps from the foul line to dunk, right? like, um, but I think the pieces that they need they're getting a year older, and I think to your point about Budenholzer, they're not as dynamic as say the Celtics, you know, which is going to be their challenge, and they're not as dynamic as teams in the West, frankly, right? So I think that's where they are. I think they had the window, and they're always in the window. But don't get me wrong, but I do think they can find themselves like, unless they retool smartly, being one of many teams in the East versus the team in the East. Because I think we all think it's like, oh, it was the Bucks and the Celtics, and then kind of like the Sixers, right? But everybody's always one trade away from this whole thing being flipped up too. Speaking of the Sixers, you know, I think there's no question Embiid is when he is in and healthy, which is the biggest asterisk ever.
Yeah.
He is controlling the game in a way that folks haven't seen in a while. It's looking frightfully reminiscent of last year in that, he's already going to miss game one. This against the Celtics. Sixers don't have a chance without him doing that and being him. If they don't win, it's always a thing that Harden wants to go back to Houston, not pay taxes. And take advantage of all the Southern and Creole and Cajun hospitality that exists in the great state of Texas. And then this question starts to be: is this Doc Rivers? He's a great guy to get you to a place, but can he take you over the hump? Kind of like the Tibbs conversation.
Yeah. Like you gotta look at it. He's had similar without short of having KG, to be the fulcrum. He hasn't had the capacity to get past the conference finals, or even sometimes the second round. As a head coach, and it's tough too because that's my other. I'm like, man, it would be kind of fun if the Sixers got to the finals, though. You know what I'm saying? I'd like the Sixers to get out the East. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think the Knicks can get out of the East. It's fun rooting for them. I think they should beat Miami, so they should get to the conference finals. I don't think they should beat Boston or the Sixers in a 7-game series. But, part of me is like, man, that would be fun if the Sixers got to the finals. Because outside of that one team in Philadelphia, I got love for all the Philly team. You know what I'm saying? Sixers, Flyers,
the
you know what I'm saying?
The team who shall not be named.
You know what I'm saying? The Phillies, you know what I'm saying? We out here. That other team,
Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs North.
Yeah, man. The other team, man, I don't really rock with y'all, but you know what I'm saying? The other three is cool. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you were gracious until they lost.
Oh, yeah. I had that. Like, man, hold that. You know what I'm saying?
You were gracious until they lost.
I do have to say, just, I damn it, I hate them though, but they do a good job of picking people for the most part. And you gotta respect. Sometimes you ain't losing because you're not losing because they're not good at what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, man, the league don't let them get probably the best player in the draft at the 9th spot. It's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense. Football. What are y'all doing?
Right.
But we had a good draft. But we ain't gonna talk football right now.
And so I guess also, and this is a hell of a closeout. Let's talk about Dylan Brooks and the Memphis.
Oh yeah. We do need to talk about that.
Man. Oh man. I do not want to be accused, and I don't want to be seen as being ageist. I don't want to fall into the familiar Black tropes about, remember my day where we used to walk to school with no shoes on.
Uphill, both ways.
Yeah, uphill and sled through only to read a book that didn't include anybody Black. But we still did it. We were made of steel and iron ore,
Right.
I don't want to drift into that. I don't think you can escape, though, the Memphis Grizzlies being the greatest example of contemporary youth culture and the results of contemporary youth culture. I'm not even going to go back into Ja stuff. We talked about that. I don't want to beat that into a hole because I think it starts to constantly frame him by a set of experiences that shouldn't have to necessarily remain with him given if he changes activities. because I don't want to go back to that. However, even Dylan Brooks, even Desmond Bain, even the behaviors and the attitudes that the Grizzlies had, what they would call swagger or being drippy or some variation of some term that was heard in a, 21 Savage or Drake out, Amigo song. It all ended up with y'all gave up in the third quarter of a game. Like y'all got beat so bad, y'all gave up in the third quarter. I thought y'all was the guys that was supposed to have all the heart. Y'all was guys that was supposed to be able to engineer a comeback. And for me, that was the most telling component of a organization that has some culture issues. And they're going to have to resolve those culture issues if they think they're going to beat Denver, if they think they're going to beat Phoenix in any kind of real way, they're going to have to resolve their culture issues because it very well may result in being their undoing going forward. So yeah, man, I just had to say that because whatever is going on there, but then and then compounded with like I talk to the press, right? I'm Dylan Brooks. I talk to the press. I tell the press LeBron ain't shit. LeBron's an old man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last games where you lose and you can't stop him and you couldn't make a basket if your life depended on it, you don't want to talk to the press. So not only do you want to speak about things, you don't want to take accountability and responsibility for when you don't do well. Which I think if someone said exhibit, 456 of the Grizzlies issues would be that playing the Lakers.
Yeah. The thing that gets me about it, and it's something, I think it's somewhat of sort of the interesting product, like byproduct of the way even like the league is constructed right now, right? Like you have a team like the Grizzlies who have all these young players who show a lot of promise. And, I would say most folks would say they almost immediately exceeded expectations. Like when they was, because that first season Ja had where they were like, oh no, the Grizzlies are like a competitive team. Like right now, like, they may not be championship ready, but they are a tough out. And then this year, in a jumble where I think a lot of those teams are all closer together than the amount of slots would present. But you get to mouthing off and saying, oh, well, we're better than this team and that team, and we're not worried. But you haven't really done nothing. And it's okay. I'm all for, by the time people hear this recording, how they listen to them, they will hear that, I'm not necessarily against people talking smack and saying wild stuff. You just then got to like sign up for everything that goes with it, which means like, yeah, man, we kind of, I was running my mouth and, LeBron put his foot in my tail. You know what I'm saying? Like, I told him I poked bears and all this other stuff. And then at the critical moment in the game, he bully balled me into the paint at 38 years old. What I'm going to do? They put me on the jumbo screen. These are all Dylan Brooks things. They put me on the jumbotron. Like what I've done versus what he's done. They right. Like,
Right.
They're like, yeah, I'm being a character. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying wild stuff. Cool. We just got to get him next time, right? Like you, at least, all fair in the playing of the game, so to speak. Where you go like, yeah, man, next week, next year, we got to come back. Da. But it's stuff even I watch with them. Like in that closing game. I guess Ja had a good game. Or a pretty good game on the prior game, if I remember correctly. But in the elimination game, he had 10 points and like didn't really seem to have any other answers besides, well, I'm gonna do my Ja Morant. I'm gonna just fly recklessly at the rim, which is an endearing quality, that someone like me respects. Reckless abandon and like flying into people. But then there's a part where you go like, yeah, you got to have something more than just a reckless abandon, fam. Like you need to have another play. Like, because the reckless abandon, it's great. It's a great psychological, almost like psychological counter when you're winning. You know what I'm saying, or when you getting above. But if you are not getting, like if it ain't working, like sometimes you just need a bucket, and y'all just need to run a good play, like, or whatever. They definitely get a bit of the front runner energy, and I think it's the thing that I think just years of watching basketball, and I'll wrap on this so we can close. Is like, teams' window to do whatever they're going to do is never as long as they think it is. And sometimes, you just do have some promise, but that's, it's like Jaren Jackson, I guess he got Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sometimes he don't seem, the fouls still sometimes, which are better than years before. But even like they all just got a bit of that front runnery energy to me. Where like when it's going good, that it's all like, yeah, and then when it's starting to fall apart, like they only got the same energy, but it don't matter because now you're losing. I mean, you really did like lose by the almost 40 or was 40.
You
like,
lost by 40.
It was out of control. Like, I mean, I think the Lakers, as they finally constituted, are a much better team than they started with at the beginning of the season. I don't know if they that much better, but it don't matter at this point because you just got eliminated. So, enjoy the projects. Like, go well, I guess that's more when you get out the league. That's that particular piece. That's the reference. You know what I'm saying? You go back
right.
wherever you
right. Enjoy Punta Cana.
Enjoy Punta Cana. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Tulum. I think Tulum. That's the new place.
Yeah, Tulum is a favorite.
You know what I'm saying? Go to Tulum. Wherever it is you about to go, spend some money and
fake like you like the Mayan ruins.
Yeah, like
that's always fascinating when everyone's like, was at the Mayan ruins? Felt spiritual. Did you?
I have
Did you really?
I'm not going.
Oh, is this for Instagram?
I don't. Yeah, I've never been on one of them trips. You know what I'm saying? That's all. The closest I came, we didn't go to the rooms. I just enjoyed a really beautiful beach in the Bahamas, and I didn't really take no pictures of it because I just enjoyed it with the person I came back. I didn't. It
was for you.
I didn't feel like I needed to tell y'all. I did have some delicious food by the beach as well. And again, I didn't feel like I needed to let y'all know about it. It was a great experience. I would like to go back. So yeah. So farewell to the Grizzlies. I think Denver might go ahead and get out the West. Just as that was my thought. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm a little closer on it. I mean, we ain't even mentioned the Kings in the other series, but we gotta save something for later. So can't do it all. All right. Well, I don't know. Be safe out there, everybody, and just talk to you next time. So,
and watch B Street.
Yeah, watch B
Street. And listen to Dale.
Right. Listen to that, man. Anyway, yeah, man, you gotta listen to them. So get into it too. Don't let whatever you might feel about people's the as we say in the white gaze to not let you engage with the traditional rhythms and stuff in there that have a mid-century twist. You know what I'm saying? Get up in there with that. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. Before I say too much.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, Justin. Thank you for your patience bearing with me through a very challenging and creative time in my life. I assure you, when I get on the other side of my current doings, I got a lot of interesting things I want to do with this podcast to be the rest of this year going into next year. So, you support the podcast by listening, rating, subscribing if you're listening. Share wherever on the internet and things like that. But don't feel pressure.